This is a Pele Media podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to Goonies Minute. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we're going to chronicle and overanalyze and celebrate the movie Goonies minute by minute. Today we're going to be starting off with the first 60 seconds. I'm your host, Brady.
I'm Chris.
And today we're coming at you from the Pele Media Studios right here in Baton Rouge.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the hometown we'll be talking about today.
That's right, Astoria.
A little small town in Oregon is what we'll be talking about today.
You know, right up front, one of the things I really like about the Goonies is the fact that it takes place in an actual place, Astoria, Oregon, which really helps ground the film in reality. But there's kind of a movie trope where you have to make up your town that it takes place in, like Amity Island in Jaws or Antonio Bay in John Carpenter's The Fog. And this movie doesn't do that. And it doesn't need to, because Astoria, Oregon, this part of the country really just, its atmosphere really lends itself to a film like this.
The landscape of that town fit exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
It's an adventure movie. Mystery is perfect way to say it. And,
and
you know, even the beach, the rocks, the where the pirate ship comes out, all of that is it fits perfectly with the theme of the movie.
All right, well, speaking of the movie, you want to get into to the breakdown of minute number 0?
Let's go.
Let's do it. At 0 seconds, we open up on the Warner Brothers logo. At 9 seconds, the screen fades from the iconic Warner Brothers shield to a black screen with a skull and crossbones over it. The camera zooms into the black eye of the skull. At 14 seconds, the words, "Steven Spielberg Presents," appear in white blocky text on the screen. Metallic banging sounds can be heard in the background. At 17 seconds, the words, "A Richard Donner film," can now be seen in the white blocky text on the screen. More metallic sounds can be heard. At 20 seconds, the camera now zooms back out of the eye socket of the skull. The crossbones that were there before have now disappeared, and the skull has become the top of the letter I in the title card of The Goonies. The words zoom out until the screen is made up of complete blackness. The sound of footsteps can now be heard. At 36 seconds, the sound of a large lock being unlocked can be heard as the camera smash cuts to the interior of a jail cell. The hand of a police officer reaches into view and opens up the barred door. He announces that it's time for lunch as the prisoners empty out of their holding cells. One cell at the end of the hall, however, has not let out, even though the doors are now open. The policeman then approaches the cell. At 49 seconds, we cut to the inside of the cell where a pair of feet are hanging above the ground. The camera slowly pans up to show a man who has hanged himself by the throat. The police officer slowly walks into the cell to find a note attached to the man's chest. And thus ends the first 60 seconds of The Goonies. You know, the first thing that we see here at minute 0 is the Warner Brothers logo. And it immediately, I mean, it's silent, which is already kind of setting a mood, even in just its silence. But we immediately see the skull and crossbones. I mean, the classic pirate imagery to let us know you are watching a pirate film. We're going to be leaving the pirate theme for for a little while, but we want to let you know right up front that's what this movie is. And then it kind of goes from there. So you have some pretty cool notes on this skull and crossbones.
Well, one thing that's interesting with the skull and crossbones is, first of all, the 3D, but also how the camera goes inside of the left eye of the skull.
Right.
Which we'll see later on that's the eye of One-Eyed Willie, where he has the skull there. There's no hole socket. So I thought that's interesting. There's a lot of foreshadowing that happens throughout this movie, which is classic of Spielberg. And I think that that's one of the first. That's right in the beginning. You get that. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. Also, the font is really it's like almost Bones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And maybe and you know what? There might be a name for that font, I don't know. It's the first time that I had ever seen it. That's for sure.
Some of the graphic design on stuff that I've done so far, there is a name for it. It might even be just Goonies font. I really can't remember. But something I do want to say right up front is that we're going to be referencing Steven Spielberg maybe more than we do Richard Donner. I know that he's not the director, but his stamp is all over this film. And I know that he did direct some of it, but you can definitely sense his influence on the film quite, to a very large degree.
No doubt about it. And another thing that's interesting is when we see, You'll see the Warner Bros. Logo, the skull, and everything. Before you actually see the first scene, you hear the like some footsteps, light footsteps, keys jingling, and it's definitely at a low level. And then, boom!
Yeah,
you see the inside of the jail, and you hear the slam of that door.
Right.
It's like, if you weren't ready for the movie, if you were in a theater watching it for the first time, if you have it up loud, all of a sudden that's going to jolt you and startle you and prepare you for a pretty intense opening scene, which sets the stage for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and it's so jarring. But that sound effects that we're getting while we're just seeing the skull and crossbones could be anything. I mean, we could very well be in the bowels of a pirate ship or something like that.
Right.
We don't know.
Because it's not, and I tried to listen, I turned it up and listened real close, because it's not for sure the steps or the keys when you're not seeing the scene. Now, once you get into the scene, you know what it is.
Yeah.
But there could be, it could be something there to where you're trying to get people, stirring them to think about, like you said, pirate ship.
Yeah, something else. One of the things I really like about really just any movie that does this is when they immediately drop you into something that you didn't expect to be dropped into. I mean, we're in modern day. This is a kids movie we all paid to go see. You go up to the ticket window, you get your ticket, you have seen all the marketing for this kids adventure film, sitting in the theater. Boom, all of a sudden we're in a prison. And there's prisoners coming out of their cells, and everything is just the sound of the gates being unlocked. And the way the guard is addressing the prisoners. It's very dark what we're seeing.
Right.
So here we are in this kids movie, and all of a sudden it's, woo, didn't expect this, and didn't expect modern day.
And there's no build up. It's there.
It's just there. You're there.
You're inundated or just thrown right into it from the start.
Yeah. This obviously, the better half of this minute is just imagery of the skull and crossbones and the logo. And we really don't get into any visuals right up until the very end of minute 0. But then we move right down the way, and we go inside one of the prison cells.
Well, yeah, you see, you're not as familiar with the prison as I am.
Okay.
Because
you've spent a lot of time.
I've spent time in there as opposed to you, so be happy about that.
Yeah.
But
all that, like breaking into public pools and very adult activities.
That's exactly right. So you go down the hallway of the jail, and seeing Jake Fratelli hanging.
Yeah.
And it's really first of all, they keep it PG because he's hanging there and he doesn't look like someone that's actually dead.
Yeah.
And if anybody's ever seen somebody hanging, it's a lot more gruesome. But still, for a kid, seeing somebody hanging, that could be kind of creepy.
Yeah. And again,
especially not expecting that.
Yeah, exactly. So we're moving from this foreboding imagery of the skull and crossbones, and then into a prison. And now we're seeing a hanged man, it was pushed right up in our face in this children's movie. So, and
really, and another thing that's interesting, that guard, his name is George Robotham. I'm not sure if that's the pronunciation. It's Robotham. And what's interesting about him is he is a famous stuntman. And starting in the 50s, he was a stuntman and was in many, many films. And he actually stood in as a double for people such as Rock Hudson, Clark Gable, and John Wayne.
Wow.
Which is pretty interesting considering he's just got such a small little part.
Yeah.
And in just doing the research on him, I couldn't believe that he had been in some of the movies that he'd been in.
Yeah, that's right. I think he specialized in underwater stuff.
Right, exactly right.
Combat and things like that. But yeah, it's interesting that you get one of the biggest names in stuntman history, and here he is just having a small part as as a prison guard. He's in it for 30 seconds.
Exactly. So I thought that was interesting, and so that kind of takes us up to the end of minute 1.
That's
and
right.
It's everything's all hell's about to break loose.
Yeah.
But
the adventure begins here, right at the beginning of the next minute. And tomorrow we're going to get into Robert Davi, the guy who plays Jake Fratelli, who's had a very, very cool, very interesting career. Well, that's all I have for this minute. How about you?
That's it.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to minute number 0. We've got so many fun minutes for one of the funnest movies I think ever created. And not just of the 80s, not just of children's films, but one of the funnest movies that has just stood the test of time over 30 plus years later. And I can't wait to get into it.
Sounds great. Well, we look forward to minute number 1 tomorrow.
But until then, I am Brady.
I'm Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies never say die.
Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram @GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com.